Hey guys, Ethan with Medicare Millennials here. We appreciate you guys being here. Today I have Evan MacGuffie on, who we had on right before AEP to talk a little bit about his software company that he created called Medizues. We hope you caught that awesome video, but today we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Medizues and explore all of its capabilities, as well as go over some of the new improvements. So Evan, how are you doing today?
Ethan, I'm doing really well. I love you. Looking forward to it.
Excellent, man. Well, hey, I got to tell you, just I'll go over a little personal, my trials with Medizues and kind of some of the things that I enjoyed. I'll go over that here in just a minute, but I wanted to say that, guys, I hope again that you caught that very first video. I think that this is a software that is going to completely turn the insurance business upside down. I can't tell you how much money it saved me so far. This year since we've been using it. And Evan, I'll just go ahead and segue into talking a little bit about I ran Medizues today, which is the final day of AEP that we're talking right now. And and Medizues is great in many ways, but when I ran it today, I saw that I had about 25 people switching. So really what that did was that gave me some anxiety, of course, but it put a fire under my butt to be able to call these people initially and say, hey, like before you switch, before that becomes effective, before any of that happens, we got to sit down and talk and we got to figure that out. So out of the 25 people that I saw this morning switch so far at the time of this recording, I've been able to save 18 of them. And the problem with that is all 18. Yeah, 18. The problem with that is I would say 16 of 18 weren't aware that they were switching or told me that when they did talk to somebody, they said they wanted to keep it all put. So guys, it's not that like all of your clients are trying to switch or anything like that. There's just people out there trying. And so I did a little bit of math. I think it's the commission is what, 306 for next
24, yeah.
Yeah, so 306 times 18, guys, that is $5,508 that I've saved just today on my renewals next year. I mean, that's my car note. That's a lot of money. That is a sixth of what I made in my very first year in the insurance business. So that's pretty incredible. And then Evan, I just wanted you to kind of chat a little bit about some of the updates that you've had with Medizues since the last video that we've had on here, and go a little bit over that with me if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So today is December 7th of 2023. It's about to say 2024. 2023, we launched on October 1st. So it's been just over 2 months. It took about 13 or 14 months to build the thing. So last time we spoke, Ethan, that was about 9 or 10 weeks ago, 2 weeks before AEP. We got a couple different updates. And most of the updates are from user feedback. So now I asked you for feedback. I asked a lot of user feedback, hopped on Zoom. If you guys have some feedback for me, hop on a Zoom or email us, admin@medizues.com. And I took some ideas and I'm like, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? What do we need to improve? So a couple things right off the bat. We added a search bar. So now you can search, and if I need to I need to find Ethan, I just type in Ethan.
Right? That was huge for me today.
Yeah, it pops up. Another thing that we did is we made it a lot easier to select all of your clients, so you don't have to keep scrolling, right? Also, we had a couple issues with exporting. So Medizues isn't meant to replace your CRM. It's meant to attach to your CRM. It's not meant to replace any internal processes that you or an agency might have on their back end. So what I want to say is you can export your Medizues data into a CSV file, open it up in Excel or Google Sheets, and run your analytics that way. And you can sort it, you can do VLOOKUP, right? So VLOOKUP basically compares one sheet to the next one. And so let's say you have one sheet where you have enrollments through Sunfire, right? So you can see the person and what plan you sign them up for, and then compare that to the Medizues data, make sure that the person, the beneficiary has the plan that you sign them up for starting 01/01/2024, right? Because if Ethan has United Healthcare, I sign him up for Humana, and it shows on freaking Medizues that he's going to WellCare, something going on there, right? That client got rewritten.
Yeah.
So it's a retention tool, but it's also a placement tool during AEP, because you got a month and a half of just lingo, right? is limbo.
Oh,
That's
right. Yeah, if
not
you wrote somebody on October 20th and you haven't followed up with them or talked to them since then, there's a huge chance that they've talked to somebody else and could have
right.
possibly made another change without you knowing.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you're not meeting with them in person.
Especially if you're not meeting with them in person. Yeah. Yeah, that was one big question that Kenny was asking me. He was asking me the other day if I'm using Medizues to run the people that I've written during annual enrollment period. And the answer is yes. Of course I am, because I'm not here to write you and then lose you before it ever becomes effective. I'm here to write you and hold on to you for as long as possible. And I wanted to make clear on my statement earlier when I said that when I ran it today and had 25 going, that was the first time in about a month that I've ran it and ran it successfully. I ran it several times before, right after AEP started, and I did notice right about November 1, I could see a lot of them starting to fall off as well. So just the 25 or the 18 that I've saved today doesn't mean that's all I've saved during AEP. I've probably saved close to 50 at this point. So do the math there.
Yeah, I mean that's real money. Like that's serious.
Yeah.
So and just for the audience, this isn't just you saving these clients. You have an assistant, you have another agent that you work with, right? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna call you Superman. That's incredible.
You see these wrinkles?
Yeah. Okay. Right. We got a young Santa Claus doing a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I know you talked a little bit about the improvements from user experience. Tell me a little bit about some of the other things that the users that you have on Medizues or you currently using Medizues have had. Any good, any bad? I would like to know a little bit about all of it.
Yeah, yeah. So in the process of getting user feedback, we also got testimonials and use cases and progress and how are you doing with it, success rates. Dude, I spoke with a woman on Monday and she only has a book of business of like 200 clients.
Only.
And, well, I mean,
yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
yeah, I mean, it's 200. But the reason I say only is because she saved 20 clients during her first 30 days using Medizues.
10%.
Yeah. And you haven't even paid for it yet. It's like you haven't even bought it. You know?
So she just saved $6,000 next year. And she did all that during her free 30-day trial.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, if
I'm
that
like, you're gonna buy
it. Yeah, I was about to say if that doesn't convince her, I don't know what will. Yeah,
like,
that's incredible. What else you got? Have you heard anything else?
yeah.
Anybody with like major numbers? And guys, this isn't scripted at all, and we didn't prepare this or anything. So this is the first time I'm hearing this. So I want to hear if you've had anybody with like 1,000 clients.
Yeah.
Or larger now.
Yeah. So I had another call on Monday with a woman who is basically the admin, she's in the office for a call center, like an FMO, basically. They're pretty big. And so it took her a week to do what Medizues does. It took her a week to do what Medizues, how do I say that? It took her a week to do it by hand, and Medizues does it in like 5 minutes. So she went through their entire book of business for enrollments, and they had like 7,000 enrollments for AEP. She did that by hand. She did 2,000 by hand, and she got through 2,000 in like, she said like 7 days, if I remember the numbers correctly. We hopped on a Zoom. She's telling me this, and I'm like, hey, like I got some time. Let's get you ran for the first time and make sure that's working for you, and then I'll let you go and let you spread your wings and fly away. She's like, okay, cool. We ran it for the first time, Ethan, and she's basically breaking down in tears. She's like, this took me a week to do by hand, and we just did this in 2 minutes. I'm like, yeah. And dude, in my heart, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like this is for real.
Yeah.
This is what I fantasized about for a year, going through the fucking compliance. Like,
right.
I had to switch fucking developers.
Right.
Not to drop a bunch of F-bombs, but switching developers because one of them isn't compliant and having to go to a HIPAA certified fucking developer and paying twice the amount. Like there's 3 times that I thought a bullet went through Medizues' brain and killed it. Yeah, 3 times.
They're all 3 times too.
Right? And And October 1st, we launched. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to make this look super simple, but nobody has any idea how much bullshit we had to go through to create this goddamn thing. Right? We're not the first ones to think of this, because this woman did this by hand. And as I've spoken to users, I've spoken to them like, yeah, dude, we did this by hand one time, and we did it one time for AEP. We did it in like Thanksgiving time, right? The middle of AEP. And it took us like 2 weeks or some shit. You know, it took like a long time. I know some guys that, never mind. I'm not going to mention that. But people have done it by hand. And there's a reason that it hasn't been created until now. It's because there's so much shit that you have to go through with HIPAA, SOC 2, CMS, like EO insurance, backup, you know, cybersecurity, all this shit to make this happen and to make it look really smooth on the front end. So anyway, I'm listening to this woman who's basically breaking down in tears. And I hop on another Zoom today, Ethan, because you're talking about, you know, feedback. I mean, the guy told me today, he's like, dude, thank you in advance for making us millions of dollars. I'm like, dude, you're welcome. Just remember me when you sell. He's like, yeah, dude, we're going to sell for multiple, you know, we got this many people in the books. We're going to grow for another 4 years. If we can improve our persistency, like 3%, it's going to add him like $2 million, right? 3%. Like, I increased a woman's persistency in 30 days, but Medizues did. She increased it herself, but we gave her the tools to do it. But she increased her persistency in 30 days without spending any goddamn money while still working on the free trial. No credit card needed. 10%, right?
Yeah.
She took clients, she saved 20 of them during AEP. Like, that shit warms my heart because we gave so much to create Medizues. People are using it, we're having positive user feedback. It's wonderful, man.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. And also kind of talking a little bit about those two situations. I mean, that is mind-numbing work, having to compare all the plans and go through all that for an organization, much less just like an individual agent. That is mind-numbing. It's overwhelming. And flat out, I don't think many people would do it. I know I wouldn't. I just,
yeah.
And then you hear about 7,000. Go ahead.
No, the other thing is she went halfway through and then she's like, wait, I forgot to get LIS and Medicaid. I'm like, we got you.
Nice, because it shows that.
She's like, I didn't go through there. I didn't redo it, half of it. But yeah.
Okay, excellent. So just to know, Medizues, kind of explain, like, I know you can kind of show it and people will see this when they get into it, but explain what it shows. Once you get your clients entered into it, when you look at the line there, just real briefly, what does it show them?
Shows you their current plan and when they got on their current plan. So their current contract number, the current plan name, right? So the contract number is like H56- whatever. Plan name could be United Healthcare Plan 1, and it shows you when they enrolled in that. Let's just say June of 2021. And then if they're switching, it shows you when that contract, when that current plan that they're on is ending. So it could be, right, if you run it in November, it could end November 30th, or it could end December 31st, right? So it'll tell you when they're ending. And then it'll also show you their future plan name and their future contract number and the future enrollment date. It'll also pull on the very same client, the first name, last name of CMS, their address with CMS, city, state, zip, and it'll pull the LIS and copayment percentage. It's like L1, 100%, L4, 50%, and their Medicaid indicator, whether it be yes or no. It won't show the full Medicaid level, whether it be full or partial, QMB, S1B, but it'll show you if they have Medicaid or they don't. And it'll do that for everybody like that.
Yeah. So when I got into the business, I used to have to call a carrier like United or Humana and say, hey, I'm calling to see if this client has LIS. And now you're saying you can just click a button, scroll all the way to the right, and it shows you that.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. Well, I will say, I don't want to jinx myself, but I will say, I believe, I haven't looked at the numbers last year, going back a little bit to me and my personal situation with this software. I believe, look, and guys, I predominantly do Medicare Advantage. I mean, I have quite a few Medicare supplements, but it seems to be getting less and less popular, personal opinion. And so I predominantly do Medicare Advantage in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. If you guys are familiar with that area, very competitive, right? There's, 1 million agents to one client. And so a lot of these people I haven't seen since I've written back in 2019, 2020. Okay. I haven't personally went out there and visited them again. So so last year, I believe, I say all that to tell you, last year, I believe my retention at AEP was 83, maybe 85%, which in my book, that's excellent. That's almost as good as you can ask for in a super competitive market in Medicare Advantage. And again, I don't have the final numbers, but I started running them and everything like that. We're closer to a 93% retention, hoping by the end of the day to be a little bit closer to 95%. So we're looking at a 10 to 12% increase in retention.
Ethan, I have a question. That's fucking awesome. Does that include deceased beneficiaries?
I put them all together, whether they switch or they decease. I need to separate those. I had a lot of deaths this year, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
I would say 2 or 3% might be towards death.
You got 2 or 3 towards death. So the people that you could save, you saved like 95 to 97%.
Yeah. 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 That's exciting because, guys, if you've been following us long enough, and if you've listened to my story here, yes, I wrote 600 plans in 1 year, and that was excellent. And I told my wife, I remember this, you're retired, babe. Don't worry about it. I got it figured out. I'm on the moon. But what I soon found out after the next AEP is I lost about half of them. And so what fun was that to sit there and spend all the money to acquire that business just to turn around and lose half of it? Wife has to go back to work because we're not as set as we thought we were. And that was merely 3 years ago. And I had only wished something like this had existed at the time where I could have been more confident. Now, after midnight strikes tonight, I'm going to be super confident that everything that I've ran through Medizues is stuck and they're not going anywhere. So that's super cool there. A couple more things I wanted you to hit on. Talk about crosswalks. That was one thing I reached out to you this week about because I was uncertain on how to see that. So talk a little bit about what that is and how Medizues handles it.
Yeah. So crosswalks are when, let's just say United Healthcare, or another carrier, but United Healthcare does this every year. They change the contract number and or name of the plan, but it's the same plan. So let's just say it's United Healthcare Medicare Advantage. Now they change it to United Healthcare AARP Medicare Advantage. Awesome, like super, and they just put an extra word in there, and now it has a different contract name, but you're still the AOR. That's the thing, is that the client's contract, their Medicare plan is switching, but you're still going to get paid and you're still the AOR. So that can be really tricky because if you look at Medizues, it's going to show, like, the reason I'm looking over here is because I'm looking at the whole crosswalk. In Medizues, you'll be able to see like they have contract, H23, and then it shows like contract H24. And you're like, oh, like,
and it shows them switching, like it highlights it orange. And that's why I called you this week. I was panicking. I'm like, why are like 90% of my United Healthcare business leaving? What did I do?
So crosswalks are not leaving. It's automatic when they have a crosswalk. So, I looked at my business. I'm like, dude, there's got to be some way, because technically they do have a new contract, but you're still good. So we implemented a crosswalk feature, and it's not like Ethan and I were going over this before we hopped on Zoom. It's not 100% bulletproof, but it's a crosswalk feature where it'll show you the 2023 plan name and the 2024 plan name, so you don't freak out. So when it shows in 2024 under plan name, it'll say like AARP plan 123. I don't think we put a comma in there, but it's like 2024 crosswalk, and it'll show you what the new plan is. So that way, you're gonna be able to see like, okay, like they're still my client, same basic benefits and features, but I'm not the one that switched them, but I'm still gonna get paid on it.
Yeah. It was like kind of like an internal switch. Yeah, that was a fun phone call when I called you, and I was just like, wigged out already. Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm gonna cut you off, but for next year, next AEP, we're gonna have a completely different feature where it'll be like more robust, and it'll like track both contract numbers and cross-reference them and tell you if it's really a change or if it's a crosswalk. Like, it'll be more refined for next year.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something. You said next AEP, this will be blah 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 blah. Guys, I think I need to make it a little bit more clear. This is not a tool that we use solely during AEP, because guess what's coming right after AEP is OEP. And so a lot of people are going to be making changes there. So this is a tool that we can use year round, and I highly suggest it. I will be running it twice a month, every month moving forward, once at the 15th and once right before the end of the month. So I just wanted to make that clear, that people aren't just thinking that this is an AEP tool. And speaking of people, for anybody that didn't catch the first video of ours, Evan, why don't you talk a little bit about who this product could be for?
This product is for any agent or any agency that wants to retain their book of business.
Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter if you have 50 clients or 5,000. The value is there because I think you've priced it where it makes sense. So it's like right at, if you save 3 policies a year, it basically pays for itself for the entire year. So even if you have 50, in fact, if you only have 50 clients, you better hold on to those as best as possible, especially if you're looking to get ready to scale. Because I've noticed a lot of agents in the business, myself included, that scale really, really quickly. And that's great. And you're getting all these clients and you're starting to get all this commission in, but then they're losing their business on the back end, like I did in my first year. So to me, it doesn't matter if you have 50 or 5,000. This program is perfect for any agent that has any amount of clients in their book of business. Yeah. And then
you just say this.
Go ahead.
30-day free trial, no credit card ask. If you don't make $1,000 during that free 30 days, then don't get it.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. If you don't save $1,000 by saving your clients. Now, guys, look, if you see a client switching and you call them and you can't save it, okay, that's kind of on you, right? But if you can see that somebody is switching and you turn around and you're able to save them and you're able to immediately save $1,000, then this is worth it, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, super fair.
All right. I want to talk a couple of more things. Let's not make this too long. I think you and me could talk all day about this. We get pretty excited. Talk a little bit about beginning to end, from the moment you're like, all right, Medizues is something that I want to run on my book of business, from that point up until clicking fetch data and it's showing you who, who's switching and who's staying the same. So give us the shortened version, but give us that the whole beginning to end process.
Yeah, we integrate with every CRM on the planet. As
Same
long
over time.
We integrate with every single CRM on the planet.
That's huge.
As long as they can export into a spreadsheet file, which if your CRM cannot do that, then you need to find a new CRM.
Yeah.
So if you go onto Medizues.com and you go to integrations, and it's really just me, I made a bunch of videos showing how to integrate with this CRM, that CRM, that CRM. And I just made one for Medicare Pro, just so you know, which is you use.
Yep.
But essentially, you export your book of business from whatever CRM you have into a CSV file. You just got to reformat the date of birth. And as long as you have your client's date of births and Medicare numbers, you import it into Medizues. Medizues reads it, maps the data, and then you hit select all. It's the checkbox on the top left. Hit select all, hit fetch data. There's a little disclosure that says, hey, we're going to run your eligibility to check your plan, yada, yada, yada. You hit, all right, I asked my clients this, they give you permission, agree. You hit fetch. Then it does an eligibility check on everybody, and it shows the data.
Wow. It'll show errors if you got the date of birth wrong. I had about 20 date of births wrong this week. If you got their Medicare number wrong, it'll pop up those errors there. And that way you can literally fix it right on Medizues. You don't have to go back to your, you could go to your CRM and fix it there, assuming that's where it's at, but you can fix it right inside. You can edit it there and then fetch it again. And it'll show you the correct information there. Super simple. Yeah, guys, it's like, once you get it into that spreadsheet and you import it into Medizues, I mean, that's game over. It's super simple. It pops it all out. Again, if there's an error, it's probably a user error like I've experienced this week. But it'll immediately start showing those things right there. And I will tell you, I've actually told several of my clients throughout AEP, Evan, that I've invested a bunch of money into a software or a program, and I explain, kind of how this allows me to uh, be able to see and monitor their situation to make sure that they aren't being bamboozled or switched into a plan that they didn't want or need. And man, it's been like an overwhelming amount of people going like, "Thank you, guys. These people are
Oh, really?
tired." Yeah, yeah. I make it sound like it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, when it's only, $1,000 a year or whatever it is. So I make it sound like I've invested a whole bunch of money, but these people are tired of being switched. They're tired of being lied to. They want somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can count on, somebody that they can call, somebody that's just going to metaphorically hold their hand throughout their entire Medicare experience. Everybody knows somebody that's been burned. Everybody knows somebody that's made a wrong choice. Everybody knows somebody that's been lied to. It's being overplayed, in my opinion. And these clients are happy to hear that I'm taking the next step into protecting them and making sure that they're in the very best spot. So I think that's worth $1 million there. And then one question that I got a lot of from the last video that I'd like you to talk a little bit about, and then I'll kind of open it up to you if you have any kind of last thoughts here. But one question I got is, all right, Evan, let's say I import my 1,000 clients into Medizues. How can I be assured that Mr. MacGuffie here doesn't take all my clients from me? Are you able to see my clients? Are you able to see what's going on? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the reason that you know that myself or nobody in my organization is switching your clients is because we show you if your fucking clients are switching. So
Yeah.
that's one reason. Another reason is that if you go to our trust page, so you go to the bottom of our website, and you hit trust and security, you get to see that we're audited by a third party. We're audited by Vanta, and Vanta certifies and audits us in a professional third-party manner that we're fully encrypted. All right, so myself, my lawyer, any one of my developers, assistant, nobody, me as the owner, nobody within the company can see your user data. Okay, period. Like, end of story. Now it makes support a bit trickier because you can't like tell us to like look at your account and see if there's anything wrong.
Right.
We have to hop on a Zoom, which is cool because it also gives me a reason to meet the people that are the users, which I love to do and get feedback. But like, we have a third party. What else can we do? Fucking sue us if you think you have evidence that we're stealing your information and selling it. Just sue us and we'll see. Like, yeah.
Well, maybe we don't have to go that far, but that's certainly a question that like I know people would have, and that's a question I have. Like even when I'm using a CRM, like when I signed up for a new CRM, a question I have is like, all right, can you see the back end where you could see my clients and slowly one at a time start picking them away from me? Is that possible? So that's a very valid concern in my opinion, and it's glad to hear that you've taken the necessary actions to ensure your users that you cannot see it. Nobody that's even the people that designed it can't see it. That's good to hear. That's amazing.
One other thing is, we're happy to answer questions, and that is a legitimate concern. It's one that I would have if I'm a user. So don't let me downplay it, but like this was one of the main focuses for 9 months of development, was just making sure that it was super secure because we knew we'd come under that criticism. The second thing is, with your CRM, you got to make sure your CRM is HIPAA compliant, right? Mm-hmm. I know the CRM that Ethan uses, and you better watch out because it might come home to roost. Okay, if you don't sign, okay, mark my words, if you don't sign a BAA when you engage with the software company, like when you start your CRM and you start that free trial or you're paying for it, if there's a terms and conditions, that's fine. If there's a privacy policy, that's fine. But if you don't sign a BAA with that other entity, then you cannot give them PHI. Okay, like it's a HIPAA violation. So, and this isn't like to make anybody like freak out, but like that's an issue.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's over a lot of agents' heads, including my own. So I had you check out everything on my end because I know you've learned a lot through this process, and said, hey, make sure that myself and this company are doing everything correctly, in which you suggested that they weren't. So that's that's all we really wanted to get across, guys. You don't have to know all these acronyms and things, but we do want to get across that this is very private, very protected. There was a lot of money invested, I'm sure. A lot of people looking into the protection of your book. And Evan, you did say if you were a user, but you are a user, you had to run your own book of business. And that's what's exciting, guys, is this was created by a Medicare agent for Medicare agents. So anything that he ran into, which Evan, you were talking 2 years ago when you got into the Medicare space, you were already asking questions about retention that nobody could answer because nothing like that existed. So it's, this is created for us, guys, for our situation. This isn't for life insurance. This isn't for annuities, maybe yet, I don't know. But this is for Medicare, both Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement, as well as prescription drug plans. So this is huge for anybody that's in the Medicare space. All right, guys. Well, this has been super useful, super educational. Evan, I appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit more about this with us, explaining some of the things that people had questions on, myself included. Thank you for taking the time this week during AEP. Again, I know you're an agent as well, who has his own book of business. So thank you for taking the time to kind of go over this with me. Guys, if you're interested in checking out Medizues, remember, there's a free 30-day trial, no credit card needed. Get your business together, get it inside Medizues, and run it. All right. We're going to have the link below in the bio. Run this book of business. And like Evan said earlier in this video, if you don't immediately save $1,000, then shut her down, right? No big deal. But guys, if we're saving more than $1,000 and you see the value in this, and it's crazy to think that some people might, that's okay. But if you see the value in this, guys, this is something that you're going to have. In my opinion, this is going to blow up. It already has. It's going crazy. It's spreading like wildfire. So reach out. If you have any questions, click the link in our bio. Reach out to us. We're happy to answer them. If for whatever reason I don't know the answer, guess what? I've got a direct line to Evan. So do you guys as well. Reach out to him. He's happy to answer questions, happy to help you get your book into Medizues and run that first time. It can be a little tricky if you're not super tech savvy, but you really don't have to be. So reach out if you need any help. And the last thing I'll say, as this recording, 12/7, we have until the 31st of this month to continue running Medizues and seeing how many people have switched. So don't wait until January 1 to sign up. Start using that 30 days now. Get your business together, get it imported, and take a look. We have plenty of time. There's still, depending on carrier, of course, there's still ways to save that business before the end of the year. So make sure to use that free trial.
Amen. One last thing is, I want to get to the point with Medizues where, let's say you're an agent and you meet with a client, or say you're an agent and you talk to a client over the phone, like what you mentioned, Ethan. I want the client to be like, hey, you have Medizues, right? You're not going to let me go. You're not going to let me get bamboozled, right? And the agent's like, Medizues, what's that? Like, we need to have the fucking seniors start promoting this. Because at the end of the day, right, if we took a really large glance at this and we took like a 10,000 foot view perspective, at the end of the day, we're just reducing complaints.
Yep.
Right? What's the number one complaint? By far, like 90% of the complaints are, hey, I got switched to a plan I didn't know about.
Yep. Wasn't where I was switching.
Yeah. After 6 months of a beneficiary being on a Medicare Advantage plan, the likelihood that they're going to file a complaint is like super low. So the complaints happen within the first month to 3 months. That's why they call them rapid disenrollments, right? So yeah, it helps us with retention. That's originally what I built it for. Then I showed it to you, and you ran it a year ago tomorrow, right? December 8th was the first time we ran it. And you're like, holy shit, and you saved 12 people out of 24 that were leaving. And you're like, yo, you got to create this into a scalable product. I'm like, bet, hold my beer. And so, a year later, we got that. So it was originally just for us. And I'm saying to myself, okay, well, then agencies can use it too. Okay, it's good for agencies. And then CMS develops and implements the 48-hour scope rule and call recording. Now, you cut me off if you want to end this thing, but I'm going to go off on this for a bit because I've been wanting to tell this on the podcast.
Go for it.
All right, so 48-hour rule and call recording. Why do they implement that? Because complaints doubled between 2020 and 2021. That's fucking ridiculous. They doubled. And between 2021 and 2022, they went up again, but it wasn't a double. So CMS is in an interesting position because they propose a rule and then they vote on the rule and then they enforce the rule, but the enforcement isn't with the agents themselves, and the enforcement doesn't come out of their pocket. Okay, they enforce it through the carriers, and the carriers are the ones that enforce these rules. So if you don't record your scope, you're not going to get terminated by CMS. No, you're going to get terminated by that carrier, right? So the carrier is the one that has to do the investigation on the complaint. And if the carrier does the investigation on the complaint, then they have to spend time and money. Well, the same thing. They have to spend time. And time for somebody that has to now listen to a call recording, which could be 45 minutes, an hour and a half long, they have to pay for somebody to listen to a call recording. And they're not paying minimum wage. They're paying a freaking compliance department employee, right? That's not like a low tier, on the totem pole for a carrier. They're making good money. Like, they're salaried people that are in the compliance department or allegations under investigation. Like, that's what it's called with Humana. Like, that's money. So before, all you had to do as a carrier, and not that it's like easy, but you have to ask them, hey, give us a report, tell us what happened, and then we have to call, we have to take the time to speak to the beneficiary, see if we can get in touch with them. If we can't, so be it. We have to talk to them. We have to cross-reference the testimonies and see if it's the client's fault or the agent's fault, right? That's how it was. Now they have to do all that, plus they got to listen to your punk ass recording, right, that you have to keep. And now they have to do all that plus a 45 an hour long call, right? Yeah. Every single one. And CMS is like, hey, you have to do this, Mr. Carrier, right? And the carriers are like, who's going to pay for this? Oh yeah, we have to pay for it, right? So when complaints doubled in 2020, 2021, that came out of the pocket of the carrier. That didn't come out of the pocket of CMS, right? Because when complaints double, the carrier is the one that has to pay for the investigation. And so I don't know what the numbers are like, right? But each carrier, as long as they know their KPIs, key performance indicators, they have some sort of idea of how much a complaint costs them. Let's say the average complaint takes an hour and a half to 2 hours of an employee's time at United Healthcare. Okay. That's like, I don't know, just call it like 50 or $100, something like that. Okay. Each one of those complaints. Now they have to listen to a call recording. It could go up to 3 or 4 hours. So that number like doubles or triples, right? Because that's a super time consuming thing to do, is to listen to calls. Now you could say, oh, maybe they reduced their costs because they're using AI to listen to long audio files. And you can make that argument, and I'm not going to disagree with you, but that AI has to be what? HIPAA compliant and SOC 2 approved. I don't know. I don't know if it is, right? And if it is, and it's fucking expensive, it's not going to be as much as a human listening to it, but it's still expensive. So you have that whole dynamic. So if we can reduce complaints, if we can improve retention, that helps us as brokers, okay? And that's like the first layer of the onion. The second layer of the onion is if we increase retention, it's going to reduce complaints, and that's going to help the carriers. So first the agents love Medizues, then the carriers love Medizues, okay? And then the third level is CMS, because CMS is like, dude, we have all these complaints. They doubled between 2020 and 2021. That went up again. We don't know what they're going to be like for 2023. Let's implement a 48-hour scope. Like, we don't know how. We want to reduce complaints. How do we do that? Okay, we'll enact more laws, more regulation. So they proposed those two rules. Then they just proposed 2025. We're going to take away marketing dollars. We're going to take away a lot of FMO support, right? Oh, I froze.
Yep, you did. There you are.
Cool. And so the only tool that CMS has in order to reduce complaints is to enact more laws or take them away. But that's all that they can do. Well, another technology comes around called Medizues and reduces complaints. That's a win. And CMS, all they care about, okay? CMS does not exist for the benefit of agents. CMS Medicare was never created in 1965, written into law by Lyndon B. Johnson for the benefit of agents to get super fucking like wealthy. Okay, that's not what it was created for. It was created to help seniors afford healthcare costs when they reach that age because they can't afford them themselves. So CMS doesn't give a fuck about agents. They care about beneficiaries. They care about seniors. So at the end of the day, with Medizues, we're going to help agents, we're going to help carriers, we're also going to help seniors. And that's what it's all about. And that's when it's super fulfilling. You telling me, and you're the first person to share this, where you could tell a client about Medizues and they're like, oh, that's awesome, right? And every time that we save a client from getting put into a plan that they don't know about, one, it impacts their life, it impacts your pocket, it helps the carrier, it helps CMS, it helps the overall Medicare system.
Yeah.
That's my TikTok. That's my opinion.
That's beautiful. I mean, I don't know how most agents feel, but I think we can agree that the more we can keep government and any sort of regulation. I mean, regulation's good, but if we can keep the overreach or the overregulation out of the business, the better off we'll be. And Medizues is well on its way to helping do that. That was a very good point. I'm glad you included that. Anything else before we let you go?
Other than that, I got nothing.
All right, there you go. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening this far. Like we had mentioned, the link is below in our bio. Check it out. Use this little time before OEP to get your book together and get it thrown into Medizues. Take that 30-day trial seriously. Get it in. And again, if you don't save $1,000 immediately, then of course, then maybe the value is not there for you. Maybe your retention's already at 100%. But if you immediately save $1,000, then that pays for it for the year there. So check it out. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're happy to answer them for you. And Evan, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to continue using Medizues on our end. So keep providing it for us. Keep offering the good stuff, and we'll keep using it and helping our clients out.
Amen. Absolutely.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah.
See ya.